everyone, welcome back to the Fit and Frugal podcast. I am your host, Tani Nguyen. So today I have here with my friend Spencer.
You're already giggling.
I'm already giggling.
This is gonna be great.
This is gonna be funny as shit, dude.
You made me look really funny though, with all your laughing. I haven't even said a joke.
I know. Okay, go. Dad joke. Hit me.
What do you say to the giggling podcast host?
What?
Shut the fuck up.
And fired. And that's the end of our podcast. Yeah. Okay, so as a YouTuber, I've been wanting to ask you, like, how do you structure, like, your day-to-day, and what does that look like?
The hardest part for me is finding subject topics. And so ideally, if I have a subject topic, if I have one that's, like, very clearly this is the next video, then I'm doing a bunch of research. I'm looking into the subject and trying to find all that I can about the subject and try to find different angles to tell a story. And so that's going to be a lot of my day. And then once I film the video or write the script and film the video, then editing, of course. So the whole process is probably a full week at this point.
Per video?
Per video, yeah.
I just watched your Houston syndicator, The
Yes,
Fallout.
Jay.
Love that shit. That's like my bread and butter, right?
Yeah,
like
I don't get to talk about too many real estate investors, but that was one.
I know. So that one really caught my eye. That's why I was wondering. I'm like, is it just me attracted to like a certain topic just because I'm in the multifamily space, or is it because I know the whole foreclosures and stuff before and I wanted to know your intake on it, right?
Yeah.
So I actually looked through the whole video and I saw that there's a lot of like really well done research. Like a lot of the articles and all the stats that you pulled up is all the same thing that I went through. But that's because I go through like rabbit holes and
yeah, the rabbit hole is exactly what happens.
I'm like, what else did he do? So I pull up his whole entire track record of seeing like what it is that he did before that led him to this, all the banks, all the deals that he did prior to that too. So now it makes sense why it takes you a week.
Yeah, it's not so much like the research isn't too much. Like this is why I prefer topics that have a lot of media already on them or that are easy to find because I don't want to spend too much time researching because if you go down a rabbit hole that doesn't result in a video, then you lose a lot of time. Because if you don't make a video, then you don't make a video. That's what I do is I make videos. And so ideally, you have like an interesting story, but because they have a lot of media already on them, it makes it a lot easier to make a more interesting and engaging video. So if you were to make a video on a private figure, it isn't as interesting because you don't have as many pictures and images. Let me give you an example. If someone comes out and says, this person lost a lot of money in real estate. If they have videos in the past talking about how much money they guarantee, or I make millions investing in real estate, or I'm raising money and I guarantee 20% return, like all that makes for a way more interesting video when they then screw over the investors. But if you don't have any of that, you're just telling a story to the camera, which isn't that engaging.
I do like that you did point out one of his pitch decks. He promised up to like 143% IRR.
Ridiculous.
I was like, what the fuck is that?
Yeah,
like,
perfect example. Like having access to that,
it's a
having
clickbait.
someone post. Yeah. But
if
people share the story with you, hey, this guy guaranteed this much in returns. If you don't have anything to show for it, it also doesn't make you look as credible.
Yeah.
Because you're just going off hearsay.
So Jay Miranda calls you the gurus of gurus. Do you want to tell us more about that?
Sure, yeah. A lot of my content is about fake gurus. These are, I categorize a fake guru as someone on social media who claims to have an expertise or skill level that they don't actually have. And it usually combines with them selling you a product or service tied to that expertise. And so fake gurus are very prevalent, and I seem to be the guy calling them out. And so I guess now I'm the guru of fake gurus. Probably more accurate.
Yeah, so how has that whole journey kind of like transpired from you doing your first YouTube to now being the gurus of fake gurus?
Yeah, it's been a long one. I started in 2015. January 2015 was my first video, and I was just trying to figure it out. It took a while. It wasn't until December 2019 where I really figured out what I wanted to do with content strategy. And it was clear right away once I made that switch that was the correct switch, and that was the path I needed to go down. So it's really only been maybe 3.5 years of being kind of quote-unquote relevant on YouTube.
And how long did it take you for you to actually consider YouTube like a full-time job?
I was forced into it, actually. So December 2nd, 2019, I released a video for a new series called Authentic or Charlatan, where I started looking into the popular internet marketing gurus. And in April 17th, 2020, so only roughly 4 months later, COVID hit and I lost my job. At that time, I was at to like maybe 12,000 subscribers. I was maybe making $800 a month from AdSense. So there was something there. It was something to point to. Like, okay, clearly I found something and there's some growth here, but it wasn't as obvious. I mean, even over the next 6 months, even as my channel grew and I reached like $5,000, $6,000, $7,000 a month from AdSense, I was still considering going back to work if they wanted to bring me back. In September of 2020, I was notified that I would not be brought back due to COVID and you know, whatever excuse they use. But
Yeah.
I was not let back. So then YouTube was my thing.
Yeah. What was your day job before?
I was in software. So I was doing QA, which is quality assurance for a tech company out here in Summerlin, out in you know,
Yeah.
the nice suburb, Summerlin. And yeah, so I was essentially testing software before it went to production.
Okay, so you do have a software background already, so YouTube isn't really like a new language to you.
Not entirely new. No,
Yeah.
I've spent many years on social media as well, just like trying to learn from people on how to start your own business and real estate investing and all. In a weird way, I like all the past years of analyzing all these gurus, trying to learn side gigs and side hustles and e-com and real estate and all this, and maybe understand the culture of the gurus. And so
Yeah.
I think that helped me initially with calling out the fake gurus.
Yeah.
I had a really good understanding of the business model.
So with the fake guru and like you know how you're like name dropping or you're actually going after them, like how does that, like, is there a repercussion? Like, do they come after you back, or how is that?
Not
like?
often. I am facing one lawsuit at the moment, so I'm in litigation with one. However, it's not too frequent. Mostly because I'm a storyteller and I share from public sources. Like I'm not personal. I'm not getting into personal stuff, personal matters. That's where you get the really bad pushback if you go into private matters. But I'm covering mostly stories that have already broke, meaning there's already a news article on it, or there's a public lawsuit, or people have reached out and I'm just sharing their story.
Yeah.
That kind of thing. So you aren't really going to get pushback there because you're sharing what is already true.
Yeah.
But occasionally it happens.
So it's like a deeper sense of journalism just through words. Because
Yeah.
I do see that you have a lot of like really professional camera angles and like the way you speak. So you know what I'm saying? Like you can tell that you've done it before and it kind of sounds like a Telecaster.
Yeah,
So I'm not sure if
didn't I?
you're walking with the prompter behind you or is that just something that's like innate, you know?
I definitely have a teleprompter.
Okay.
Videos became a lot easier to make once I started using a script. This was probably 3 years ago at this point. But for a while, I was just off the cuff. I had an idea. I had bullet points, so I'd look at my computer off camera, and then I'd look at the camera and try to riff. That was it was much harder to make the highest quality video. I think it got a lot easier because of having a script. You can be very precise with your language and wording, especially when you're being critical. It's very important that you watch what you say. And I found it a lot easier to prepare, write the script, and then have the script written and essentially speak on the camera. And then when it came to editing, it was a lot easier to edit.
Yeah. Are you usually posting like the first one or how many takes is it actually?
Generally
become?
3 at worst.
3?
So the way I have it broken down to a science, and I have like max maybe 2 sentences per kind of quote unquote breath, for lack of a better word. So I'll speak 2 sentences and then it'll break, and then it'll go to the next thing. So the science behind what I do is I try to only speak in about 1 or 2 sentences before something switching. A pattern interrupt is what you would call it in this industry. And so that being 2 sentences that I speak, and then after that I might go to an image or another video or something on the screen like a graphic. And so I'm not trying to speak for a long time. It's best to make it more engaging. It's best to have constant breakups.
Yeah, because of the attention span of people too. Like after
Yeah.
8 seconds, I think if you don't really move the screen, they kind of lose
Yes.
consciousness or something like
Yeah.
that. They just kind of black out. Like, what was that guy saying?
Yeah, exactly. So you're always wanting to throw something on the screen.
Yeah.
I think it's just a more engaging, better video whenever you can speak about something and then point to something on the screen or give the audience something to view so that they can see what you're talking about. It's not just a campsite story where you're just speaking for 15 minutes straight.
Yeah, because that's also another skill too. Because I do
Yeah.
see that you have like really well public speaking skill as well as like, you know, like moving into data and stuff like that too. So it kind of has to match. So visually, like, do you have to plan that out ahead of time or is it something that you do after?
Definitely after. However, at this point, I'm probably 300 videos deep. So with the style of video I make, it just comes so easy at this point because I have so much experience. What is really exciting for me now is going out and doing videos out in public, which I've done recently. I've done a little more of, which is essentially a new skill set. Like, yes, I'm a quote unquote YouTuber, but there's 20, 30, 50 different ways to make a YouTube video. For instance, you could be a YouTuber, but you're an interviewer. If you went out and maybe you could do 1 million subscribers as an interviewer. If you wanted to go out and do vlog style, that's a totally different skill set. So yes, you might have experience as a YouTuber, but it's a totally different skill set. So that's a different style that is presenting challenges, but I enjoy it.
Yeah, what's the difference with the vlogger then?
Well, you have different camera angles, lighting. These are stationary cameras. This is not so much story-based. You're just sitting here asking questions, do research on the person, ask good questions. Once you go do vlog, you need to have hooks, you need to have transitions, you need to have storytelling, you need to have a reason for people to watch the entire entire video. You also need to set up different titles, different thumbnails, whole different strategy.
Fuck, dude.
Entire different strategy.
It's cute that you thought I planned for this ahead of time. I think I tried to plan for my very first one with questions and everything, and it was so fucking uncomfortable for me.
As the interviewer.
So I'm not really an interview format. I just kind of vibe with what we enter into flow state with and kind of go from there.
I like it.
It's more just kind of matching.
It's like Rogan.
Yeah, it's just kind of matching where the other person's at and following like my innate curiosity about the person. Just kind of like letting the intuition guide you.
Makes it a lot more personable.
Versus me forcing like, hey man, when's your birthday? What's your favorite color? This ain't no fucking date,
We need
bro.
to talk about this specific topic right now.
Shit. Yeah, I can't sit here giggling and have you take over my fucking podcast. You know? Yeah, but I remember you saying, I think, was it last week or something like that, that you still have a lot of... I feel like blockages, right? A lot of like limiting mindset or self-beliefs. Like, what is that like?
Yeah, absolutely. One of the biggest challenges of my niche is when you're criticizing others or when you're exposing fake gurus or talking about lawsuits where there's people that lose money, you were seen as this guy who is kind of like anti-guru, which I'm not in any way. But a lot of my videos are criticisms of fake gurus. And so you can be boxed in that you're not a guy who sells anything or you don't sell courses or you don't have masterminds or whatever. And so it's been a real challenge of mine to try and figure out how can I get to the next level? And for me, that would be, I love real estate personally. I love real estate investing. I love helping others. I've been mentoring others for years at our meetups in the house hacking rent by room model. And so one big limiting belief that I've had to get through is the ability to just sell anything, any product or service, especially through my main channel, which is heavily criticism based on fake gurus. So then all of a sudden you're starting to sell a course. Limiting belief on pricing, on you're legitimate or credible enough. Like there's a lot of things I've had to battle through.
Yeah. So what I'm hearing, do you feel like that has to do with like imposter syndrome and not believing that you're credible enough to actually give guidance on a level that people would actually pay for?
Yeah, absolutely. I think when you're first starting to sell any product, you're always wondering if you're legit or credible enough. It's not so much for the course itself, because I know what I offer is very valid and everyone I've helped has gone on to make a significant amount of money. It's more of like what price point works and where's the value, what type of customers are you going to attract, how are you going to position it or sell it. It's been a little bit more around that, because I know I'm pretty credible, but am I credible enough to sell a $20,000 course? Probably not, so I probably shouldn't, but I'm credible enough to sell a $5 course, so somewhere in between, where's the best number?
I see. So how did you get to those metrics? Like trial and error?
Yeah, I think a course, a digital course, I'm priced at $300 right now. I think that's a pretty good price for any digital course. I think once you start getting into hand-holding or mastermind, that's where you can start getting the higher price. You generally see $1,000 for a digital course, but for mine, since it is an entry level into real estate investing, I do like to keep it low, because I do want to have... Yeah, it's to make money. Any course, any product or service, any business is to make money. But I do like seeing people succeed. And if it means selling the product for $300 and it gets them more hands and I have more success, more testimonials, bigger community, in the short term, I think that's the better play. And then I can monetize better by having a more like coaching offering, community offering down the road.
Yeah. Are you hearing more retention from your current clients, or are they asking for something that's a little bit more advanced, or do you see yourself just building a bigger community with all the newbie, like entry-level people?
I haven't figured that out exactly. So I just started selling the course. I have, I think 7 people have bought so far. So this is like I'm not some huge operation just yet. But some of my mentors, people that I look up to, Pace Morby being one, I've seen what he's done. I've been watching him since he was nothing on YouTube, like truly nothing, and seeing what he's done from YouTube to growing a community and how quickly it grows. And then also just being in the space, being in the influencer space for a while, I know how quickly this stuff can grow. And so, yeah, I'm in the moment, I don't have much of a community, but I know how quickly you can build one. And so I'm trying to establish like the best setup today so that I can grow really quickly down the road.
Yeah. When did you consider yourself an influencer?
Probably when I had like 100 or 200,000 subs, but that's not the number. It was when I realized that I was making like a real impact, both positively and negatively. Negatively on when you make a video on someone and people start talking, or people make reaction videos to your stuff, or you see in the comments like, oh, I didn't fall victim to this guy because of your video. Like I looked him up and saw your video. I stayed away. That to me is influence.
Yeah, instead of them blowing money, right?
Yeah, once that became more and more common, definitely when I started getting recognized in public, that was when I was like, oh, this is for real. That was probably the most accurate.
Yeah. Was that
Yeah.
part of you, like your ego boasted a little bit?
Of course, but it's fun. It's great. It's a great feeling. It's really cool. Like
Yeah.
the coolest feeling I had was when I got invited to go do No Jumper podcast, which is they're like 3 million, really big podcast in LA. And I went out there, and then when I went to LAX, someone recognized me. So I just hung out with a really, really big influencer, which at the time for me was like a big deal. Then I get recognized in LAX. Then I got on a flight back to Vegas, and on my flight, like as I was getting off, some guy came up and was like, "Hey, you're the guy that does YouTube. You expose all the guys." So it was like twice in an hour. Like that day was really cool.
Yeah.
It makes you feel really important. That's all.
It's nice to feel like you actually made an impact in someone's life too, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a good feeling.
Yeah, I can't imagine that. But where do you see yourself, like, with all the hate going on? Like, how does that reflect on your self-image with yourself and relationship with yourself?
It's been a challenge for sure because I am not a negative. I'm not really like a critical person. I'm very optimistic, very much, hey, let's aspire to be better. Like, let's figure out how we can better ourselves. It just so happens that I stumbled into this niche 3.5 years ago, and that's what helped me grow, and I stuck with it. And I think it's needed, and I enjoy doing it to some degree. So that's certainly a part of it. It does come with negativity. It does come with, unfortunately, like setbacks and lawsuits and threats of lawsuits and stuff. It has also helped show me that that's not what I want in life. And so this is like a very short-term game for me. And once the lawsuit's over, I'll be able to fully evaluate what I want to do in life. And I think that's going to involve doing more positive videos and more like uplifting as opposed to tear down.
Yeah.
And so I think the negativity in the short term is a detriment. It's like poison to your soul. However, I think long term it's going to be a big boost because I'm kind of more figuring out what I want to do with my life.
Yeah. Do you think you'll lose a lot of your subscribers knowing that that's why they followed you knowing that like that's your brand?
Yeah, it's inevitable. It will happen. Yeah, but I also might not make many videos for my main channel. I might completely shift. I have a second channel, and I might focus way more on that than the main channel.
So your second channel is the providing value, doing the courses and teaching and mentoring, right? Coaching.
Yeah, I just started. I've only done 2 videos so far, but it's going to be basically what I see is I think there's a real opening right now on YouTube, which is you have the investing community, real estate specifically, very analytics. Just picture anyone who makes real estate content on YouTube. It's going to be analytics driven. I'm walking through a property. It's for content for investors. But I think there's a space right now where you can mix entertainment and real estate investing where you could get a little bit of both, where you could be like 80-20, 90-10 on the entertainment side, where you get enough real estate investing to attract the investors, but enough entertainment to get a broader audience. Yeah. And so that's the plan, at least for now.
I think that's the same space that I find myself into. It's more entertainment, education.
Yes.
Not just sitting there telling people how to invest and how to buy your first deal.
You
and
call
all
it
that stuff too.
infotainment.
Infotainment.
Is what that niche is called. Yeah.
Edutainment.
Edutainment's actually probably more valid.
Yeah. So I believe in leading with more like entertainment driven lifestyle to kind of just because I think it resonates more and it's more relatable than just saying, hey, I made money doing this, right? And then kind of showing
here's
like
how I made
80%.
$30,000 last weekend.
Yeah.
It's kind of unrelatable.
Kind of like 80% trying to show people like who you are, authenticity. And then the 20% can be the educational, the value that you provide on something that you really believe in, which for me, I don't think like I'm going to sit here and talk about real estate,
You shouldn't.
For 30 minutes.
It's a really, really, really small community.
It is, right?
In the larger scale on social media.
But yeah, I do agree with you. That's the sweet spot. So the 80-20, 90-10.
That's what I'm going for.
Yeah.
Yeah, so an example is my first video I did, what 1 million buys you in LA versus Las Vegas. And so I did a fun video where I went out and toured some pieces of property, like land in LA that was listed for $1 million. And it's insane. You look at it, you're like, this isn't much. And then you come to Vegas and get a castle.
Yeah.
So that was a fun video. I think it resonated really well. Or it got a lot of views for a first video, for one that wasn't really promoted much.
Yeah.
I think it's like 2,500 or 3,000 views, which for a first video is pretty fantastic. And that's the type of content I'd love to make.
Yeah. I'm right there with you. Because like you can see the price point and the value of actually what people pay for. Because $1 million in LA and Orange County where I'm from is not really anything. You're getting like a little bucket, like maybe 3-bedroom behind the freeway. It's like kind of dinky, Yeah,
I did one on Tilden Ave, which is close to Century City, right next to the highway. It was listed for $975 or maybe $999 actually, and it was something like 575 square feet. It's like hard to understand, and it wasn't really.
It's like a hotel room.
Yeah, it wasn't really that out of price. It wasn't like so absurd that this person was obviously trying to get top dollar. It was like it was like reasonably priced, but it was so absurd that you got this shoebox, literally a shoebox with it was a nice little bit of land on it, but a shoebox compared to Vegas where you get so much more.
Yeah. So how long have you been out in Vegas?
I've been here almost 8 years. September 2015 is when I moved.
From where?
I was in Oakland, California before this.
Okay, so you do understand the
Yeah,
the
very
high
much
prices.
so. Yeah, you couldn't even buy. Not in Oakland.
Yeah.
You didn't have the buy mentality there at all. You were,
Yeah.
Of course, you weren't going to buy. You have to make millions of dollars a year to buy.
Yeah, or you just live in the shoe boxes that other investors are renting to you at like what $2,500 a month or something.
Yeah, I was $2,000 a month, 2 bed, 2 bath. I got really lucky.
Oh wow.
For a condo.
Yeah, because right now you can see all the San Francisco commercial buildings are at like a third of the prices right now.
Yeah, we need to go buy some.
Yeah.
Subject to.
Can you put that message out there?
Yeah.
Can we go on shopping spree?
That would
in
be
San
great.
Francisco? I feel like it's gonna also take a lead back because New York was the same way when all of those commercial buildings kind of fell like right after 9/11 and they thought it would never come back up.
Yeah, nice wording. Fall after 9/11.
No pun intended. Dude, I don't want to get fucking blocked from the YouTube ads. I just learned, what is it? I think Jay told me that you can't really say COVID or something.
That was
an
a
ad.
period of time in 2020. If you said COVID or COVID-19, then
Yeah,
you
I'm a
would get
newbie. I ain't trying to
demonetized.
get shut down for saying some weird shit, dude.
You don't have to worry about getting monetized just now.
Yeah.
The best way to monetize on podcasts is sponsors or selling your own product or service.
Yeah. What do you see me selling?
Maybe some type of mentorship or coaching. That's always an opportunity.
Yeah.
You mentioned getting into psychedelics. Maybe there's a path down there once it gets legalized. I've got a buddy that is trying to go down that path.
Yeah.
But no, there's always opportunities. Maybe there's some type of service that you could offer here, like a done for you or some type of all-in-one. Like for instance, for me, I want to get into the rent by room house hack model. That's what I do. I want to have my own property management for people that want to rent by room here in Vegas. Hand the properties over to me. I'll manage them. Even more so than for people that might live in California or New York. They say, hey, I bought your course. I don't necessarily want to do it here, but I trust that you're gonna be able to do it successfully in Vegas. Here's money. I'll buy an investment property. I can represent them as the buyer agent and manage the properties for them. Each client could be worth 15, 20 grand.
Yeah.
Right?
That's
You just
kind of
need
like
one.
the pad
Imagine
split
getting one a
model
month.
too, right?
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah,
Yeah.
but I'm better.
But done better?
I'm better.
Is there a rehab into the courses of this like that
My
house
course?
hack model? Yeah.
No, you can. I don't really talk about it too much because
Yeah.
that's not my expertise.
Yeah.
That's not really the purpose. More for managing them. Like here's what to look for. Here's how to buy. Here's the
Okay.
properties you should be looking at.
Yeah.
And here's how to manage.
Because you're not restructuring the houses. You're just
Right.
using the current structure, right? And just
well, adding
maximizing value.
walls. Sometimes I add walls. That's the best way to add value. So find a 4 or 5 bed house and add a wall. So look for like a second living room or a loft. Down here in Vegas in the Southwest, you can pretty easily convert a loft into an extra bedroom. So that's what I look for because you can get $700, $800 a month. That's almost 10 grand a year in pure cash flow from just one wall.
Do you have to get a permit for that wall? Or
No,
is that
you
something?
don't.
You
Not for
don't?
adding a wall, no.
Oh, really?
No, if you change walls, you would need to, but I'm just simply adding a wall.
Adding a wall and a door? So just a frame and...
Yeah, and ideally these rooms already have windows, so they're technically bedrooms.
Yeah. What's the smallest square footage of like a room that you currently rent?
Probably 10 by 10. No, that's not true. 8 by 10.
8 by
I think
10?
it's really small. Yeah, I've got a house that's 7 bed, and there's a couple rooms that are smaller.
It came with 7 bed or did you add how many walls?
I bought it. Do you remember Gary? Gary Crawford? You friends with him? He had it. He owned it, and I bought it from him. It has a converted garage over by the airport. Converted garage, and it was 6'4". Add the garage makes it 7'5". But it used to be a dentist office apparently, like very unique. Right there on Eastern and Russell.
Yeah.
You like have all the commercial buildings, and it's residential though.
But it's a house?
It's a house. It's zoned
7 bedroom?
residential.
No, I need to check it out.
Yeah, it's a unique property. So it grosses $4,400 a month.
Yeah.
Expenses are probably $2,500, $2,800, and $4,400 is low. Like in 5 years, that thing will get $5,000 a month easy.
Yeah. Are you doing like midterm rental style out of it, or is just
Month to month.
Month to
Yeah,
month?
I do month to month. I have long-term tenants. People stay a long time because of what I offer, but I prefer month to month because it's easier to kick them out if something goes wrong.
Yeah. What kind of contract do you put on?
I have a lease, a month-to-month lease.
Just a lease agreement?
Yeah.
Simple.
Yeah, very simple.
And they have to re-sign it every month?
No. So it's month to month, but that allows me to terminate the lease if I ever want to for no cause. So I could just say, I'm terminating the lease. You have 30 days to get out.
30 days. Holy shit.
Yeah.
Okay.
Makes it a lot easier. I mean, I had to deal with this recently. I had one of my worst tenants. Had to kick him out.
How bad?
Stole some stuff. Well, he wasn't even that bad. He wasn't like violent or anything. He just stole some stuff from other tenants. No one liked him. Gave me a chance to have a reason to kick him out.
Yeah.
And I found out that he ended up selling the mattress he was sleeping on to another tenant. Like the other tenant thought it was his, but he sold the mattress yeah, just so stupid. But I didn't find that out until I went to the property and saw that a mattress was gone. Then I started asking around. Oh yeah, he sold it to him. And I wait a second, it was my mattress. But then this guy took the mattress and moved out. But I didn't know he had already moved out.
So he took your mattress.
My mattress is gone
Because you
he bought
furnished
from,
it.
Yeah, he bought it from another tenant. This tenant that I had to kick out. And now I'm asking for like some money. Like, hey, and the worst part is when I kicked him out, he didn't have any money. So I was like, hey, don't pay me rent just yet. Like, I needed him out. I cared more about him getting out of the place. And I just said, hey, once you move out, pay me half month rent. You're staying for half the month. Obviously, I know I have no leverage in that situation, but I cared most about him getting out and qualifying for another place. That's what mattered to me most. So then he gets out, and I'm just like, hey, can I have X amount so that we're whole, half a month's rent plus what you made on the bed, selling the bed. He's now ghosting me. And so it's just a real problem. Yeah, so I'm probably going to file a small claims court or file a claim in small claims court for him just because out of principle. I'm a very principled guy. I went out of my way to help him out in a lot of ways, and I easily could have evicted him and kicked him to the curb, which I didn't.
And ruined his credit.
And ruined his credit and done all that. But I said, hey, I'll let you, let's make sure you're back on your feet. Let's make sure once you're settled, then you can pay me once you have money in your bank account. And then when people screw me, then thankfully I have the law on my side.
Yeah. I mean, there's always karmic retribution too.
Always.
You're not going to go after them because I think it's a little, I don't know if you feel like unsafe or something like that, but no.
No.
Yeah.
I hate when people screw over others.
Yeah, me too. Especially in real estate too. That's the hard part is like, how do you vet people, that come into your house?
That's the risk of my model. And so it's the easiest way to make money, but you don't know how people are going to behave in a house and work well with others. Yeah. Culture matters most in the rent by room model. That being how you interact with others, how you live with others. You could have the worst credit, the worst income, the worst debt to income, the worst, check all the boxes, whatever. If you get along well with others and you pay me on the first, easiest business model in the world. But you could have all the things. You could have the high income, you could have great credit, all the things that you look for in a background check. They move in, they're an alcoholic, don't get along well with others. It's the worst situation in the world.
They're smoking weed all day. They're like...
anything.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Because I know I looked up Furnish Finder and stuff too, and I see that there's like a key check model where they background check someone for you. So for me, I think it's always, as a wannabe landlord, like I always feel like my safety should be first. It's because I need some kind of insurance from like a third party that kind of guarantees me, hey, what if they like steal all my shit, right? Like what am I gonna do?
Yeah, that's the risk with this model. The way I see it is any type of like make money scheme, any type of side hustle, any type of investment, any type of active income job, there's gonna be challenges, right? There's no easy way to make money. And so yes, there are gonna be headaches with any type of model. And mine is, as I just explained. But on the flip side is once you fill out the house and you have a good culture established, you make really solid cash flow. From what I've seen, you probably 50 to 80% higher total gross rent versus a single family. And so you do get the upside of higher rent. And you have a lot less risk in that if you do have a bad tenant, you just have one. When I have houses full of 6 people, if I have one person that doesn't pay, I have 5 that are.
Yeah.
And so it's way less risk than one person. You've probably heard the horror stories in California. Someone doesn't pay in Oakland, and it takes 8 months to get them out. You have zero income for 8 months on a high mortgage, high taxes.
Or they can just end up squatting your house anyways because the government isn't really doing anything about it.
Good luck.
It's terrible.
Yeah, if you try to take anything into your own hands, you get hit with even worse fines.
Yeah. And if you get violent, then you get sued for your own house that they're squatting in.
Right. Yeah. That they're essentially stealing from you.
Yeah. No, that's almost the same reason why I got out of California. Like, I was a really good tenant when I rented. And when I moved out, that's when my landlord was like, no, like, it's really hard to find people. I'm like, well, I'm moving to Vegas. Bye. I gave you a 3-month notice still.
Yeah, what really sucks is there are a lot of great tenants out there, but they get impacted. They're victims of the bad tenants. Whenever bad tenants ruin a landlord, then that landlord's just going to have strict rules for the rest of time. That's why landlords ultimately always end up doing 2 months up front, good credit, all these things. Like, yeah, it sucks when you don't quite meet their qualifications, but understand that was because of bad tenants before you.
Yeah. Is that the worst story that you've got? Or is
No.
there...
That's tame.
What's the most haunting one?
The hardest one was a guy who lit my house on fire from the inside.
What?
Yeah,
okay, you gotta tell me more about that.
Yeah, that was tough. Ironically enough, I was on the No Jumper podcast, the one I just mentioned, and he asked me about the same thing. Like, what are some of the challenges? Like, I've dealt with everything, but I've never dealt with fire. Like 2 weeks later, check that one off the box. Yeah, that one was tough. A guy who I took in during COVID, he was working basically next door at the pizza shop, and just not mentally healthy, but I'm a pretty ethical landlord. I can never kick someone to the curb. And so he was certainly someone that was not stable, and it got worse and worse. And at some point, it just got really, really bad. So he lit something on fire. I wasn't there. I no longer lived in the property. I got a call from one of the tenants frantically screaming that the house was on fire, that Ahmed had lit something on fire. And the fire department was there. So I raced over there. He's in cuffs. I had like 3 police cars there, a fire truck. And thankfully, I got insanely lucky. Something lit on fire, the way I learned, or the way I believe the story to be. Something gets lit on fire that he throws in the house right by the main entrance. It lights, and I think it catches the wall on fire, but because there's asbestos, I think it actually suppressed the fire, or whatever was lit on fire, it went out, and somehow nothing else caught. So I'm insanely lucky that it was very, very isolated to probably by 5x5 piece of the house. And but anyway, he ends up getting arrested for arson. And you also, if you light something on fire by an entrance, it's like attempted manslaughter or something as well. Like there's a couple extra charges because you can't escape. If you light something on fire, you can't. The people in the house
It's
can't
like a fire
escape.
code, right?
Yeah, there's like some other charge, felony or whatever. There's like 3 felonies. So anyway, fast forward 24 hours. I'm thinking he's in jail, no problem. I'll now have to deal with this fire. And he calls me. My phone is lighting up and it's him. What? How is he calling me? He's in jail. He says, "Hey, I'm heading back to the house. They let me out." I was beside myself. I didn't know what mental state he was in. I didn't know what he was going to do. So and this is probably like 10, no, not quite that, maybe 8:30, 9 p.m. And I'm like editing a video. I got to get the video out. But instead, I race over to that house to protect all my other tenants because I don't know what he's going to do coming to the house. He shows up, completely different mental state, didn't really remember it. He was so calm. He was like, I don't really know what happened. Is everything okay? Kind of thing. I was like, you got to get your stuff and get out. Okay, I understand. Like, you're not going in this house. And I had one of the other tenants get his stuff, put it in his car.
Yeah.
He left. But at that moment, I was freaking out because I called the police. What can I do? I have a guy who tried to light my house on fire coming back to the property. What do I do? They said, well, you can't do anything. What do you mean I can't do anything? Well, he's not there. He's not breaking any laws. Well, but he's coming. He's on the way. What do you not understand? And they're like, well, he's not there. He's not trespassing or anything. And so, unfortunately, he wasn't breaking any laws. I couldn't call the police if he shows up and causes any problems. It's like, okay, thanks.
Yeah.
Thankfully,
you're like, what if I'm dead, dude?
Yeah. What if he comes back and lights my entire house on fire? Thankfully, nothing went awry after that. So he ended up getting his stuff and going, and he ended up dying.
What?
Yeah, he fled to Florida, and there was a story on the news. He was a news story.
Like recent?
Yeah, last year ago. Yeah.
From what?
He ended up killing someone at a mosque, and he was a fugitive, and the cops caught up to him at a Costco parking lot. He reached in his shirt or in his pants for something. The cops believed he was grabbing for something else. Bang, bang, bang. He was no longer alive.
Oh my God, that's a fucking crazy ass story.
Yeah,
dude.
that was a pretty wild story. I had
anxiety.
another one that ended up getting paralyzed. I had another tenant that this was like the 7-bed house I used to have a lot of problems there. So I came home one day, and I'm a very particular person. Like, I know everything in my room. I know where everything's situated. I came home and my credit cards I had a stack of credit cards, and they were a little tilted a little bit. And I was like, that doesn't feel right. And so I like came back to it an hour later. I was like, someone's been in here. Like, I just had that feeling. And I started looking at all my statements, and I saw that one of my credit cards had an authorization, a card that I don't use. It had an authorization at a gas station that was close by. And I was like, huh. So then I started questioning everyone. Then I was like, all right, I'm calling the police because someone clearly came in my room and stole my credit card. That's a felony. And sure enough, one of them ends up pulling me aside and starts crying. He's like, dude, I've been in a bad shape. I needed food. I needed to go over there. And I was like, dude, just ask me, kind of thing. But I said, you have 30 minutes to get out or I'm calling the police. He gets his stuff, leaves. Probably a week or two later, I had someone show up to my door. Knock, knock, knock. I answered. He's like, hey, is so-and-so here? I was like, no, man. I had to kick him out a week ago. He fell in hard times. Like, I don't know where he went to. Okay, no problem. He leaves. And then and maybe like a couple months later, I can't remember the time. It was either a month or a couple months later. The guy who was my tenant hits me up on Facebook, and he's paralyzed in jail. He ended up getting shot up. Messed with the wrong crew.
Is he in a gang? Gang's like a big thing here?
I don't think so. I think he fell into the wrong crowd, started getting the drug game somehow. And I believe after he left my house, he started messing with the wrong people, took something from the wrong person. He's paralyzed.
Yeah, stories like this is why I don't want a house hack.
Yeah, no, that's okay. I mean, I say the absolute worst stories, but this was a very, 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 very unique. My day-to-day now is like so infrequently do I have anything going wrong because I've established the culture. I've gone through all the headaches. I've seen all the things that can go wrong. I also had the 7-bed houses and not in a nice area. During COVID, I was struggling financially because I had some setbacks in life. And during COVID, if everyone remembers, like put yourself in that moment. You didn't know if people were going to pay. People were losing their jobs. You didn't know if the government money was going to run out for people that were relying on unemployment. And so if you had someone that could move in, and by the way, he was fine. When he moved in, young kid, well-spoken, nice guy. He just happened to fall into the wrong crew while he lived in my house. But anyway, that was a very, very, very unique period of time. And so the tenants I get now are great. I share the extreme examples because that makes for the most interesting. No one wants to hear like, oh yeah, I've had all my tenants for the past 2 years are pretty great and none of them cause problems. None of them text me.
Yeah. It's so sterile.
No one really wants to hear that.
Yeah.
Yeah. But for the most part, I gross at this point $220,000 a year roughly between all my properties. And, we're talking about like the most extreme examples of the wrongdoing. But we can also talk about what's right. It's just not as fun.
Yeah.
So of course there's gonna be some negatives, but as with anything that you're gonna pursue to make some money, there's gonna be headaches, there's gonna be problems, there's gonna be complaints, there's gonna be things that go wrong.
You're still currently house hacking.
Correct. Yeah, I've got 3 right now.
Yeah.
3 house hacks and an Airbnb.
3 house hack and Airbnb. Okay.
Yeah, so I have 18 tenants under management, and I don't interact with most of them. It's so light on the effort level. Yeah. Because I've just built up a really good system. And that's why I felt it was right to come out with a course, is once I went through all the headaches, and now that I figured out how to manage well, I felt most appropriate to release the course now.
I see. So when I find out that like you do YouTube and that you're at home shooting videos, how is your culture at your own house like?
Oh, it's great. Not half. I've probably had 4 or 5 tenants that reached out from watching my YouTube.
Really?
Yeah. Oh, it's great. Yeah, most of my tenants now are referrals. So they find you? Yeah. Yeah, YouTube or referrals. I've only had to find one tenant the past maybe 2 years.
Yeah.
I've only had to find one. I had a girl in one of my houses was a little behind on money, like she lost her job, and so I gave her the opportunity to find tenants for me. She did a great job at it. And so that's another thing you can do is like once you get enough, you can just pay someone a couple $100 to find all the tenants for you. Yeah. So it takes that off your plate.
Have you ever ended up dating any one of your tenants?
No comment. No, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. No. I do allow girls sometimes, but I prefer men.
You prefer men? Why?
Yeah.
Why is
I think they're easier. I prefer their communication style.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sure it'd be okay if I had a house full of women. It's just once you go co-ed, especially if they're sharing bathrooms, I just prefer men. I think men are a little easier.
Men are cleaner.
Men's headaches are worse, but they happen very infrequently. Women's headaches are common and all the time, but they're minute. That's been my experience. Meaning women will complain about the smallest things and keep complaining and not want to solve the problem or not want to solve the situation. And you're just like, listen, you're an adult. Can you please solve this? Here's the solution. But they keep complaining. Whereas guys, like, nothing can go wrong. Then all of a sudden they steal from you, blow your house up, and light it on fire. And you're like, but it's over in one day. You have no problems for a year. And then one day it's headache. And you're like, I'm quitting this business. I'm never doing this again. Then the next day you find a new tenant. And you're like, okay, no, it's not too bad.
Yeah. No, I just think girls are more gross. Because our hair is everywhere.
Surprisingly, guys are much grosser in my experience. Yeah, I find women to be a lot cleaner.
Really? Like, I clean my own stuff, but I feel like when I live with other girls, like, there's just hair everywhere. Like they're just touching your stuff. And if they're not on the same hygiene level as you, then you don't want to look like the fucking tweaker in the house that's cleaning up after everyone. Because I had roommates, like, growing up when I was in, 16, 17 years old. And I think all of us were... I wouldn't say adults at the time, right? But we tried our best, and it was a fucking terrible time. It was like 5 of us.
You're also young at that time.
Yeah.
Like I would like to think that once people mature a little bit, like then
25.
Yeah, 25 to 30, they're a lot better. I also, being a male, maybe that's also part of it. Like you're generally gonna maybe go towards your own gender. Where I prefer males.
That was my first real estate experience too. Was the house hacking. Like in my teenage years, and when I had 5 roommates, I'm like, I'm never having roommates again. Like people were stealing from me, and it's so fucking stupid. I'm like, really? Like, where's my TV, dude?
No
like
way.
It got that bad. Like, I was like, half my stuff is gone. Like,
oh, that's awful.
They're like, so we sold it. I'm like, what the fuck? Like, this is my stuff,
Yeah, no, I don't. I don't deal with theft too much. That's been pretty infrequent. I don't really have that many problems. That's why I want to start managing these, because I just don't think they take up that much time. Like once you establish the culture, you get the right people, you know what to look for, and the key is that you establish the rules from day one, and also make sure to implement them when appropriate. Yeah,
I'm glad you're bringing value from house hacking into your YouTube channel too, just because you do see like the criticism channel isn't going to be like the direction that you want to take, right? Like Correct. That's not the vision for your entire life.
Correct.
What does that look like? Like, where do you want to be 3 years from here?
I want to be entirely on the second channel, this being real estate investing, because it involves traveling. Like, I love going out and traveling and filming content. I get to meet with awesome people in the real estate space. My second video was in Miami. I went out and toured properties with the Serhant Group. Ryan Serhant, you probably heard of him. He has a brokerage in Palm Beach. And so I went out to Palm Beach, got to tour properties, go see the real estate in that community. What a cool experience that was. So I'd love to be full-time on the second channel, have a community built up for Rent by Room, and I want to be seen as the guy for Rent by Room. So if I were to say who's the subject to guy, you're immediately going to go Pace Morby. Who's the guy who raises money? Grant Cardone. Like, they've branded themselves so well. I want to do that with the house hacking, which I think my belief is that in 5 years we'll look back and see this as like the next big play in real estate. And I don't think there's a number one voice in that community, and I want to become that.
Yeah. How do you feel about Pad Split now coming up with the similar business model to what you've been doing?
They're going to try playing the game, but I don't think they offer the same value. And here's why. It's my understanding. I don't know the full business model. It's my understanding that they don't manage the property. They just find tenants. And I think they have like a community, or they have a platform where you can apply. So I imagine on the front end, it's a lot easier with them, meaning they have a lot of applicants, and then you can choose who to bring into your property. But the management is the game. It's really easy to find people. The demand is so insane right now. I fill rooms immediately. I can post on Craigslist, and within 2 or 3 days have a very qualified applicant basically agree, like, first thing, hey, I want the room. Like, what do I need to do? Because what I offer is so great. That's easy. The hard part is managing. When people move in and they go, so-and-so doesn't like me, or I think so-and-so is staying up too late. Like, I'm not getting as much sleep. Like, the little minutia of managing people in one house.
It's kind of like everyone's in high school, going to college for the first time, living with other people for the first time.
That's how it feels occasionally.
Yeah, so you're like an adult babysitter in a way.
It can feel that way sometimes, yes. Sometimes you just want to grab them by the throat and just like, listen, you idiot. You're an adult. Can you please act like one? But most people are fine. It's occasionally you'll have problems.
Yeah, so you say when you want to make more like happier content, what does that look like? More empowering content?
Absolutely. Traveling, doing content that's entertaining and educational. I think educational is purely boring on YouTube. There's a place for it, but that's not me. Like, I'm picturing a whiteboard. Here's exactly how you do something. The ABC process of house
Here's
hacking.
how my house looks like, split up into 5.
Yeah, that's so boring. And so, I'd love to do entertaining content, because at the end of the day, that's what YouTube is about. People go for entertainment. But if you can mix enough education in there, then I think you can really explode. And I think if you can, what I've seen on YouTube specifically is you can build up a brand anyway. You can build up a brand doing videos on Christopher Nolan movies, like breaking down the symbolism in Christopher Nolan movies. You can become a massive YouTuber that way. But you're not really building a brand. You're kind of building a brand on someone else's name. But when you can build a brand off your own name, where people watch you, like, when you go and do those property tours, I freaking love them. It's so amazing. And then when you do those videos, you went out to San Diego and did this property tour. I learned so much. The power of that branding is so huge, and that's how you're able to monetize. So when people trust you, when they see you're credible, and they can learn something, and their life improves because of watching your content. Yeah, that's where you really blow up. Yeah, so that's where I want to be.
Yeah, I really like this conversation, because I can hear that it brings you a lot of joy to create content.
Very
not
much
just
so.
You're doing it just for the money aspects behind it too.
Very much so.
And I mean, you've been on No Jumper, right? That's the podcast. So you've been on a lot of podcasts before. Like, what are some questions that you wish someone would ask you that you haven't been asked?
What's the biggest challenge that you're facing today? I think that's the best way to start any podcast, personally. Yeah. So that's one.
For you, what else?
I love talking about YouTube strategy, personally. It goes deep into the weeds.
What is it? ADT? ATR?
You're
all
close.
The click rate,
CTR's click-through rate, average view duration, but also like more strategy and more about like game planning. Like, what's the best strategy for growing on YouTube is always a fun conversation. Okay. Analyzing other channels and seeing what they're doing right or doing wrong. Yeah, is always fun. But no, what's the biggest challenge is usually.
Yeah. So what is your biggest challenge today?
My biggest challenge right now is making content and making enough money to support my legal bills. That's been the ultimate challenge.
What's your legal bills?
In the middle of litigation with a guru who has defrauded many people, according to the people that have reached out to me. I don't think he's I'll refrain from giving my opinion, but yeah, I've spent $285,000 to date. I've spent around $50,000 more this year than I've made, so I'm essentially lost $50,000 making content this year.
Like, into the lawsuit?
Yeah.
Just to cover your lawyers
just to
and
cover
all of
legal
that stuff?
fees. Yeah.
How many times have you gone to court with him? Have
None.
you faced him in court yet?
None. Dude, civil law is extortion. I will beat the dead horse, whatever the phrase is, until I die. This experience has been eye-opening on how much of an extortion racket lawsuits are. It's so absurd. Simple contract law is way different. Like there's a lot of lawsuits that aren't quite as extortion, but like civil law where you're getting sued for something that you didn't do or you shouldn't be held liable for is just the lawyers just take and take and take, and the whole time you're just like, what is actually going on here? At no point has a judge even seen my case yet. There's no checkpoints. There's there's no point where it's like, oh yeah, this is so absurd and ridiculous that we should obviously stop this to stop wasting time with the courts. But just the whole system is built for lawyers to take all your money. And then at the end, you both like look at each other and go, "What was this for?"
Yeah. How long ago did it start?
June 2021.
It's been going on for 2 years.
2 years, and now we're in the waiting period, waiting on a judge to decide if it needs to go to trial or dismiss.
What the fuck, dude?
Oh, it's extortion. It's the most absurd thing. It just keeps going on and on. It's kind of like a sunk cost fallacy where you keep going on and on and on, and then you just, hey, when's this going to be over, kind of thing. But what are you going to do? Sue your lawyers? Of course not.
Yeah.
But the whole system is set up so that they can just keep taking money from you and billing you. But there is a process to it. So there's no like backup plan. There's no like, okay, can we abort this mission? I'm done.
Like a white flag.
Yeah,
thing,
there's none of that.
Like
you just keep going on and on and on. And I hired really good attorneys who are costly. Had I known how expensive it would be, I obviously would have gone a different route. I was fully expecting it to cost no more than $50,000, maybe $30,000 when I first started. To now find out that it took 2 years and $285,000. Had I known that going in, I would have made some different decisions. However, I'm in the position I'm in. So the biggest challenge has certainly been the mental health aspect of basically spending more than you make and doing so continuously for upwards of 12 months now.
Yeah.
It's been a real challenge because content's fun. Content should be fun. You should enjoy making it. You should do it out of a creative expression, or like I had a purpose for doing what I do, which is these fake gurus and trying to protect people from becoming victimized from these fake gurus. But then when it becomes, you literally will not be able to pay your bills unless you get a certain amount of views. Like I've had to learn YouTube to like a crazy, crazy, crazy level just out of pure survival.
Yeah.
And it's exhausting. Like I feel very privileged and fortunate. I mean, I hang out with incredible people. The amount of the rooms I get into, the networking I've had, I wouldn't change this career for anything. And if a lawsuit is part of the positives that come with it, I'll take it all day. However, like in the short term, in the moment, it's been quite challenging.
Yeah. So how do you keep mentally sane, like on your day-to-day, knowing that, let's just say if you make the next video that's slightly controversial, are you ready for another setback? Like how do you prepare for that?
Yeah, I'm pretty tough. No, I started going for walks every morning. I have a gratitude journal. I've been very privileged to hang around people that are ironclad up here mentally, and I've been learning from them on how to like shape your mind. I mean, there's been many moments where I've certainly been very depressed and certain like really mentally distraught. I mean, it's exhausting. I'll tell you, like straight up, it's exhausting when you like my income's down to I'm grossing like $5,000 or $6,000 a month from YouTube now, and when you're spending $15,000 a month on legal bills for what? For emails and calls, and you're making $6,000. It's like, what am I doing here? It's very, very tough to continue making content because content itself is draining. It's very tough mentally. It's an always changing game. You can't just make the same content over and over for years. It's not like a normal job where you can, if you have a skill, you go do the plumbing work for the next 10 years. You're good. Content is always changing. Every year it's changing, and you always have to adapt, or else your views go down, or you're not as relevant. You don't get the same opportunities. And so staying up with the trends is hard enough on its own. It's exponentially harder when you have to make a certain amount of money just to break even. And I can't hire anyone because I'm in the negative, so I have to do everything myself.
Yeah. So you're editing too?
I do everything.
Oh, wow.
Content sourcing, traveling, logistics, collaborating with guests, finding sourcing the topics, editing, thumbnails, design, everything.
Yeah, your video is really good. Like the ones that I saw.
Yeah,
so I was going to ask you, like, who's your editors? You? What the
it's
fuck,
me.
dude?
Now, I had a period where I did have editors, but I couldn't afford them anymore. So I had to go back to editing myself. Yeah,
it's just like we're talking to our friend, like, Luis yesterday. He was on here. We were talking about how much money we're burning. We're just, like, some of our businesses are just burning cash, and people don't see it because, you know, he was like, you know, people just flex on Instagram and all of this stuff. And, of course, that's kind of like the life of a content creator, too, right? Because you do want to attract that kind of positive energy. But on the back end, like, I'm glad you're able to actually be vulnerable and like share that you're actually running in the negatives. Yeah, that's the game that we're playing.
Yeah, it's been exhausting. And what doesn't help is I hang around all the winners. I went to Taco Tuesday night. We have like a group of influencers at Sam and Colby's house.
Yeah.
Do you know them?
No.
They're like 9 million on YouTube. They were just on Joe Rogan.
Oh, really?
All my friends are 6, 7, 8-figure earners. It's
Yeah.
like they're crushing it, and I'm over here like struggling to pay bills here.
Yeah.
So it's that's like another difficulty is the comparison syndrome. It's like
Mm-hmm.
if the only people around you are the winners.
Yeah.
Like you're only comparing yourself to the people thriving,
Mm-hmm.
and so that presents another challenge.
Yeah, I'm marinating in that too. Just because it's the same in real estate too. Like once
Yeah.
you see your friends close deals and you're like,
Yes.
oh, I'm really happy for you. You made, multiple 6 figures or multiple 7 figures. And you're sitting here like, fuck. Like, I'm a
They
baby.
can do it. I know I can do it, but
Yeah,
I'm
like,
not doing
I'm a baby compared to
Yeah.
this shit. And yeah, the comparison syndrome is real too. And
It
it kind of
is.
sucks when it happens to be like in your circle and you can't help but to be happy for them.
Yeah.
And you kind of just soak in your own little
Yeah. So all these have
montage
been
of self-pity or
yeah, 'cause
whatever you want to call it.
realistically, like a lawsuit it's not someone showing up to my house. I'm not worried about my safety or security.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing really happens. All it is you get a bill at the end of the month, or hey, we've got this motion to file in the next couple months. Like that's all it really is, but it's all up here.
Mm-hmm.
So you have to just train yourself to not think about. Basically, I've suppressed all the thoughts about the lawsuit because down the road we have we at some point we might go to court. Either I think the judge is going to dismiss and then he's going to appeal, which means we have to go to appellate court. There's going to be big bills that are coming that I can't afford today, but I can't afford to like even think about that. I can't even think about the negative. It's like if there's a car crash, or that's not the best example, but like if there's a big bill coming down the road, all you can focus on is today, trying to make and maximize your opportunities today and monetize today so that you can put yourself in the best situation so that when that day comes, you're best suited. Because if I just worry about that, then I'm not getting any better today. So like at some point in the future, I'm going to be dealt with a bill that I can't afford. And I know that's going to happen. It's like a medical bill that's going to happen down the road. I have to maximize my income today.
Yeah.
And that's also why I'm starting up the second channel, because I want to start selling. I want to start building up community and real estate because I need to make some money.
Yeah. I think that's like the 4th platform that I was writing a blog about. It's not even just making money, spending money, earning money, but eventually you got to just do that and grow it. Just that cycle back and forth.
Yes.
But people don't really get to that step because they kind of get stuck in the beginning, right? It's just you earn it and you spend it, you earn it and you spend it.
Yeah, very much so.
Yeah. Is there anything you want to say for like newbie, YouTubers, kind of like myself?
Yeah,
What
the
are some
important thing
tips?
is to always think about random audience. So if we were to go to the grocery store, me and you, and look around, no one gives a shit about who you are. They don't care about your content. Because there's plenty of content for them. They can go on Netflix, Hulu, YouTube as is. How do you get them interested in what you're doing? So if you always think about the mentality of how do I make this the most entertaining and the most shareable, that's the best place to start. The problem with most people is that they look at YouTube and they see people succeeding. Number one, they have a false sense of understanding of how difficult it is to get there, or the skill set it takes to actually get to the point the people succeeding are. Like the amount of science that goes into YouTube would blow people's minds. Like now in 2023, the amount of attention going into strategy, YouTube thumbnail design, titles. You probably don't even know about this.
I'm learning this the hard way.
I'm talking about like people.
I'm doing my own YouTube channel. That's why I'm crying at home.
No,
Don't
like
worry
Mr.
about
Beast
it.
has a team of 8, I think, dedicated just to his titles and thumbnails.
Fuck.
8 full-time
Yeah,
employees.
because you got to get the clicks to even actually get through the algorithm,
so
right?
There's positions now that are well worth $100,000 a year that are just in strategy. Here's not even making the videos, but here's like the ideas we should come up with. Here's how you should design the thumbnail. I'm not going to design it myself, but here's how you should design it. Here's some of the titles you should go with. It's getting that crazy. And so the amount of time, effort, money, energy gone into the people winning on the platform is 100 levels deeper than someone who's just starting out. But that doesn't mean you can't win. So the key is you have to figure out how do you differentiate yourself? How do you make it very entertaining and engaging? That's the most important thing.
Yeah.
If your mentality is that, you're probably going to at least step up a level.
Yeah, because I can feel like people can feel when you're passionate about something and you're true to yourself too.
That doesn't even matter. What's most important is what does the audience want? If the audience right now cares so much about these plants,
You're going to talk about
maybe
plants?
you don't love being into those plants, but like if you, I took an Uber the other day to the airport, and the guy was like, "Oh man, you must do YouTube." He saw me with the camera. It's like, "Yeah, I started a YouTube channel." I started giving him all these amazing ideas because he likes talking about plants in the desert, and he's like, "How do I grow? How do I go?" I gave him some of the best ideas. I said, "Are there any plants out here that are poisonous?" "Oh yeah, there's this one." I was like, spending 24 hours around the most poisonous plant in the desert. That's interesting. That's all of a sudden interesting. Instead of just talking about, here's the ABC plant.
Yeah,
That's
like,
boring.
don't touch it, you'll die.
Yeah. Don't touch this plant or you'll die, with the thumbnail like your finger right next to the plant. Like, that's it. Oh, shit, he might die. I'm going to click on that. I don't give a shit about plants. But now all of a sudden I'm interested.
Yeah.
So that was another one. You know, ranking the 10 most dangerous plants 1 to 10 or something like that. Like, you got to make it engaging for the audience that might not care about your content. If you can do that, you'll win.
Yeah. It's okay. I'm going to call you crying 2 days from
It's
now.
becoming increasingly harder. Yeah, podcasts is the hardest to grow, by the way.
Yeah.
Easily the hardest.
Yeah.
Yes.
Fuck, dude.
It's 100x harder than any other. Because everyone's got one now.
Exactly. I turn around, I'm like, how come there's like 60 friends that's literally starting a podcast?
Yeah, because
around the same time.
This used to take, like what we have here, this used to take so much effort, money, energy. Now it's becoming more commoditized.
Yeah, that's why this is a turnkey for us too. It's just because it's the value that we just get to come and shoot.
It's great.
Leave. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a new great business model for real estate investors too, is buy a building and have 4 or 5 different podcast studios.
Yeah.
I think everyone, small business, personal, everyone's going to have a podcast in like 10 years.
Yeah, I think so. How's
Maybe
your love
even
life,
sooner.
you know? Like, that's something that I think is really interesting too. Do you actually get girls from your YouTube channel? Or
0. I haven't gotten laid once from YouTube.
What? I don't believe it.
No. I think it's because my content isn't that engaging, but it's also not personality based.
What?
Yeah. So if I were to make content, like my second channel, for instance, might, because it's more of me. I'm out in person. I'm showing my personality. If you're following, it's because you like me. Whereas my main channel is more, hey, you expose, you do research. You're more of a journalist. Like, when's the last time you looked at a New York Times reporter? You're like, man, I want to fuck that guy. Never happened. But some fuckboy on a TV show takes his shirt off and flirts a little bit. Like, oh man, Chaz on that Love and Hip Hop show.
fucking Chad,
Man, I
dude.
love Chaz. Yeah, because it's more about him and his personality.
Yeah. So
Even though the New York Times reporter may be like more attractive or a better option.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter. It's the environment with which you create. So no, I've none. 0 luck.
I mean, also unfair too. I like intelligence, not just guys taking their shirt off like fucking Chads. You know, I don't watch it for that shit. What did I compliment you on?
He
Not
takes his
you.
shirt off and then talks about Shakespeare.
I talked
right?
about your charts, your data. I would nerdy shit. Okay.
Yeah.
Hey, there's a niche out there.
I'm like 93% male in my audience, so that doesn't help either.
Oh my god.
Yeah, but I did have, what was ironic is I made videos about Austin and Catherine McBroom back like 2 years ago, and I saw way more girls reach out after that because of the topic was more an audience that was predominantly female.
Yeah.
So that was certainly something. After that, I started to think, like, could I expose more like women or something to maybe get like the women audience?
the
Like, man, I
girls.
like this guy.
Yeah.
Kind of thing. But no, I didn't.
I mean, I'm not saying that should be your lead source to get girls, but I'm really curious because you have so many subscribers.
Yeah.
That, like, what are the conversion rates of like you getting hit on? Like, what is your
Nothing.
cold lead to like, hey, loved your video, to like, hey, you want to go on a date? Hey, you want to fuck? You know?
No,
Zero.
Nothing. I've maybe had like 2 or 3 kind of like quasi-aggressive. I had a girl, there's a girl in LA that's really attractive so here's the thing, women generally aren't that aggressive as far as like, hey, let's go screw or let's go on a date, like very assertive, like let's go do this thing. Unless you reach like an A-list level creator where you're legitimately quasi-famous, then you get like the fame brain, which is like totally different thing. But you will get like a girl that'll follow you, and then you have to kind of make the initiation. So that'll happen. I've had a few girls that are attractive. They just live in different cities.
Yeah.
So that's the challenge.
Yeah, that's all I always want to ask you. Dude.
Yeah, there's a really attractive girl in LA. I could probably get her on a date if I really wanted to.
Yeah.
She's just down in LA.
It's okay. There's
So I
nothing
could
wrong
go.
with little long distance, you know?
Yeah, I'm in the works.
Yeah,
Let's
just
leave it at
tell her
that.
you're going to buy that little $999,000 little bucket by the freeway.
Yeah.
She's like, really? You own $1 million home? Yes, it's 300
This is it.
square foot little fucking shack that I'm going to shack you.
Yeah, it wasn't much bigger than a shack.
Yeah, it wasn't. Oh my God, that's so funny. Yeah, no, I just want to acknowledge you for your time today.
Yeah,
I
thanks.
didn't think we'd have so much in common that we
Yeah.
can talk about.
Thanks for having me.
And again, thanks for thinking that I actually prepped this interview ahead of time.
There's 2 different styles. You can do the prep, which is there's a place for that
Yeah.
depending on your guests. But if you have friends on, it's probably best to be more personable. But at least have like a couple talking points that you may want to hit.
I have curiosities.
Yeah, that's
And
good.
I just kind of like, hey.
Some guests you might want to do the questions if it's more of like if they aren't as personable back.
Yes.
Sometimes you kind of have to.
I did have one.
Did you?
So hard.
That guy over there.
No, I have.
Just kidding.
It was like, yeah, 1.5. Like I almost cried. I was just sitting there, and I'm like, dude, I can't pull anything out of him. It's just like when we have like meetings in person, it's fine. He's very talkative. The minute cameras are pointing at him, I don't know if he's like also introverted too. Because I know my first video, I'm like, like stiff because I'm like, fuck, that's a lot of cameras. But this guy just like froze up and he just wanted to talk on like a one track thing. Like he's like afraid like cops are gonna come after him or something. You know what I'm saying? So he just talked on one topic the entire time, and there's no like
No
back
nuance.
and forth.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's where your real value comes in.
Yeah.
That's where the skill set lies.
Yeah,
Try
and I
get
think
it out
that
of
was a big lesson, right? Because at that day forward, I'm like, fuck, okay, that 1% was a lot harder to work for than actually making a connection and like vibing with someone and just having a candid conversations. That's it.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, thanks again, dude.
Yeah.
I had a
Enjoyed
good time today. Yeah, anything else you want to say?
You need your outro.
Yeah, I need my outro, but I kind of forgot because I just got lost in the fucking guide, dude.
No, thanks for having me.
Yeah. Cool. So that's it for us today. Stay fit, stay frugal. You can find me on IG at Tonosaurus. Peace. And wait.
Spencer Cornelia 1.
Yeah.
Follow me.
Not the fake one. I followed the fake one on accident.
Oh,
right?
did you?
Do you remember?
No.
I showed it to you.
I don't remember now.
You're like, there's a lot of fake ones.
That's ridiculous.
And I showed